Right, there we go. So yes, I'm Michelle Black, and I'm the Funding and Groups Development Officer for Nuneaton and Bedworth at Warwickshire Community and Voluntary Action. And I'm joined by my colleague, David Simpkins, who covers the North Warwickshire area, also in the same role as well. So as I've said, some of the aims tonight to find out about the sports funding opportunities, to understand how to apply, to be eligible to apply, and to find out who to gain more information from and support when it comes to filling out the applications. So tonight we're joined by our presenters, so thank you very much. We've got Lucy Wilkes from Think Active Sports England's Small Grants Programme, Richard Williams from the Football Foundation, and he's going to talk about small grants funding, Lee Ryder, also from the Football Foundation, capital funding over 25k, and Joe Robinson from Birmingham County Football, and talk about their funding opportunities. So I'm going to just pass over to David at the moment, and he's just going to tell you a bit about Carver. Presume most people know who Carver is and what we do, but if there is anyone here that doesn't, it's just a quick overview really. So over to you, David.
Thank you, Michelle. Yes, just very quickly to say, as you can see there, we're Warwickshire Solihull Community and Voluntary Action. We're a local infrastructure organisation for Warwickshire Solihull to provide vital support for groups of volunteers working to strengthen the communities. But just briefly, as you can see there, in 1 year, that was the amount of funding that we were able to assist community and volunteer organisations bring in, and that's how many groups we supported, the events that we put on, a bit like this with webinars and network events, and how many attended. And basically our role is very much around how we support yourselves, volunteer groups, community groups, agencies, to maybe find or look for funding opportunities that you might want for your particular program or initiative and such like, and we can assist with you to maybe identify those. And part of our role then is to work with you to possibly put forward an application and go for and help you put that forward. The other roles that we do play, we're very much into volunteering. Very much we have colleagues who are volunteer coordinators. They're very keen to look at how they might work with agencies like yourselves, community groups and volunteer groups with your voluntary needs as well, and they'll be more than keen to work with you on that. We're also around governance. If you're looking to change your from maybe a charity to a community group or different ways of doing things, or you're looking for a constitution, whatever, we're very much able to assist you in that process as well, really. As you can see there, that's some of the roles we play as well, and we're here to help you. So those of you that don't know about us, here's the contacts. We have myself and Michelle, we also have colleagues in Stratford-upon-Avon, Warwick District, Rugby Borough and Solihull. So again, when we send this information out to you, you've got these, and if you do want particular help from us, contact our colleagues and they will be more than happy to help you. And lastly, we do have a membership. It is free, and what we do is we send out a lot of information on funding, on volunteering, events that are coming up. We send that to you as a member. We have newsletters that we send out to you. As you can see there, we have discounted rates on if you're looking for human resources and IT assistance and things like that as well. And we also set up training, and we have discounted rates for training as well. And you're able to vote at our annual general meeting. We also have a resource library, which again has many things in there. Again, if you're looking to set up a constitution and whatever, we have ones in there that you could utilize and things like that. So yeah, that's about us really, isn't it? Right, so without further ado, I'll hand over to Lucy and she'll talk to you about the Think Active and the Sports England Small Grants Programme.
Brilliant, thanks David. I'll try and share my screen if that's okay, Michelle. See how we get this going.
Yeah.
Can everyone see that okay?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Just to give a quick brief introduction to Think Active in case you're not aware of who we are the active partnership for Coventry, Solihull and Warwickshire. So we previously used to be called CSW Sport and would have been known as a counter sport partnership. With same people, we've just sort of moved out of Coventry City Council and now a separate charity on our own. I'm also joined by my colleague Kerry, who in a bit will talk through a couple of other opportunities that are not directly funding related, but could be beneficial to you as a club. What I'm going to start off with talking to you about today is the Sport England Small Grants Programme. So this is a follow-on from the Queen's Platinum Jubilee Fund that they had last year. It's open for not-for-profit organisations, so that could be a range of different organisations who work with people in sort of like physical activity and sports settings. That includes organisations like CICs and companies limited by guarantee and things like that. One thing to note, there are some sort of stipulations to that. If you are a CIC, you need to have at least 3 unrelated non-cohabiting directors and no persons of significant control. If you do have any of that, it might be the case that you won't be eligible. But what I would advise is, if that's the case and you want to pursue this fund, that you might want to seek advice. As David was saying, Carver do stuff with structure and governance and things like that. So there are options there if that's something you need to look into. Organisations can apply up to £15,000. The aim of the fund is to enable inactive people or less active people to become more active. There is a sort of priority for projects that are working in disadvantaged areas, so that's IMD areas 1 to 3. If you're not sure where your club sits in your sort of like area, there's a link on this slide and also on the Sport England pages, which you can just pop in your postcode and it'll tell you what your IMD area is. If you're not in a 1 to 3 area, that doesn't mean that you're not eligible. Just make sure if you put an application in that you really highlight how you're tackling inequalities within your particular area and how that's helping inactive people become more active. There's a real focus as well on this fund of having that sort of like community collaboration and community partnership working. So they're looking for projects that are working with, as I say, partnerships or other organisations within the area to make sure that whatever you're proposing is going to have a real benefit to the community. The way they sort of describe it is as a sort of demand-led as opposed to supply-led. So with whatever you're thinking of doing, make sure you're getting that target audience involved with those conversations so that you can come up with a really, really great project. The closing date is the 30th of June 2023. And I'll just go on to a few things that you can apply for through this funding. It's quite broad scope to this. So just a few examples that are on the screen at the moment are sort of coaching fees, volunteers, training things, service alterations. One thing to note is that this is for new or building upon existing activity. So this fund can't be used to sustain things that are already taking place. There's other things like minor facility alterations as well. And whilst this isn't a fund that is for capital projects, there are some minor things that you can do, but it needs to have a direct link to increasing participation. So an example might be if you've got a group of people who wanted to do seated exercise, and for example, the village hall was the best place to do that, but currently there were steps going into the building and that particular group couldn't access the facility. With the right permissions, if you were able to put a ramp in and that group were able to access that facility, then you'd be able to deliver the activity to that particular group. That's the kind of gist of things that they're looking for if you were looking for those sort of minor facility alterations. Got sort of 12 months to deliver your project. With this funding, unfortunately, they can't have any football dominant or football only projects. Now, if you were going to deliver some sort of multi-sport thing which had an element of football in, that would probably be okay. But as Sport England already fund the Football Foundation, That's the reason why I won't be eligible for this fund. Also, if you're thinking of doing anything for children and young people, it just can't take place during curriculum time. So just a few, this is a very whistle-stop tour. So I would advise, if you were thinking of applying for this fund, to have a real read through the guidance that's on the Sport England website. It's got all the information on there that you might need to know. If you've got any questions about what you are wanting to deliver, there is a helpline that you can call up, and they'll be able to chat you through. Or alternatively, you can get in touch with us and we can try and advise as much as we can. When you're putting together an application, really think about that problem of what you're trying to solve. Who are you trying to target at? Why? What's it going to be? What the sessions are you going to deliver? How is it going to benefit people? And what could happen once the funding has finished? How are you going to make it sustainable? Make sure that you're including sort of a full budget breakdown, making sure that you're getting the best value for money. Also think about including like other things that perhaps you're not necessarily applying for money for in this fund, but might be essential to the project. So if you're getting some in-kind help, or there's something that you're providing as an organisation, it's all worthwhile putting in to show that it's quite a well-rounded project. You'll have to register before you can apply. And once you've applied, it will be sort of 3+ weeks before you potentially hear back from Sport England, depending on the demand for the applications and if they need to get any more information from you. That was a very sort of quick tour, and I'm sure there'll be questions that we'll take sort of later on, if not already, and I'll pass on to my colleague Kerry.
Hi everyone. So alongside, as Lucy was saying, offering funding opportunities, Think Active always have a look at other resources that we can offer people. At the moment, that currently looks like some Educare licenses. So we have a number of free online training packages for coaches and volunteers that work in physical activity. Each license enables an individual club or an organisation to complete a range of courses. There are currently 25, so each login gives you 25 different courses to complete. They can all be done online, at home, or at work, or at your clubhouse. They range from quality and diversity, first aid, safeguarding, food hygiene, health and safety, handling objects. There are numerous ones on there. They take from a range of 30 minutes to 4 hours. And at the end of each course, you're given some questions, and if you complete those, you get the certificates to keep on file. We also have work with a company called Sport Structures. They offer sport-orientated courses. They currently have an offer on a range of different courses. A lot of them are centered around club matters, so raising money to sustain your club for everyone, financial stability. There's lots of different options there on Sport Structures, and if anybody wants any information on either Educare or Sport Structures, you can just give us an email at the Think Active team, which we'll give you at the end of the presentation. We also have links with Sport Ed. Now, Sport Ed are an organisation that provide professional expertise on resource and support to community groups and organisations. Essentially, two key types that they look up. So the startup organisations, they support and offer resources for procedures, governance, marketing, all that sort of stuff when you're first starting up a club or organisation. And they also look at clubs with sustainability, so looking how they can address stuff within the club to make long-term better plans for budgeting, fundraising, growth and sustainability. Just a note on Sport Ed, since April 2022, they've assisted 940 clubs, so they're quite a big and helpful organisation. And if you need any more information on Sport Ed, feel free to get in contact with us. We also, via our website, you can join a link to get newsletters, which a lot of these courses and stuff will be on, also on our social media pages. there's all up-to-date training packages that are, majority of them are free. We have an event on Monday, which is called Period Power, which focuses on women in sport and how they can be impacted or affected by periods, menopause, that kind of thing. So if you are interested in that, again, just drop us an email or look on our social media feeds. Some really important information within that. And then lastly, whilst it's not training or funding, we are currently running a campaign at the moment to gather in people's old activewear, unwanted and needed, just sitting in the wardrobe, that we are redistributing in the community to deprived areas to help them to become more active. We have been collecting in items since December and have had to have 2 storage units. We have had a significant amount of input from national governing bodies, so we've got a lot of kit. So we're currently particularly interested in anybody that is aware of people that are in need of activewear. So if your club is in a deprived area and you think it would be a good opportunity for us to distribute within your club, just get in contact. If on the flip side you think you'd be able to help with the collection or getting in activewear, again, just give us drop us an email. Yeah, I think that's everything from Think Active.
Brilliant, thank you for that. And there's a couple of questions come up already for Lucy particularly, if that's okay. So one from Kelly. Can the funding be used for young people who are out of school for whatever reason?
As far as I'm aware, that should be fine. I'm just trying to stop sharing my screen, so I'm sorry. There we go. I can get you back up again. Yeah, I think there's quite a broad remit in terms of who they're targeting at. Obviously, as sort of saying, the sort of main priority is for people living in IMD areas 1 to 3. But if there are other sort of inequalities that you're looking to tackle, that shouldn't be a problem.
Brilliant. And the other one is from Cudworth Parish Council. Would this fund cover creating an access path to the playing fields for disabled people, and also to allow buggies and children to have access to both play and sports facilities?
In all honesty, I'm not entirely sure. I'd probably have to go away and check that, because it is fairly limited in terms of what they would do for capital works. And there needs to be quite a tangible direct link to increasing physical activity. So I don't want to say either way because I'm not entirely sure. But if you want to drop us in a line, I'm sure we can put you in contact with the right people to find that out.
I think that's the thing that to say is, yeah, if you are looking for answers, yeah, get hold of Lucy at Think Active and she'll try and help you. The last one I've got here is from Sarah, and it says, Lucy, will this help with my green underlay? So I don't know which Sarah that is. And did you want to say? Is that Bev? Is it? Oh, did you want to say a bit more about that?
Again, I would be quite cautious on sort of like capital projects. I mean, it does say minor facility alteration, so, and it is not for capital funding. So again, I wouldn't like to say it at this stage, but I'll get back to you, Bev.
Has anybody else got any other questions on the first presentation, the first lot of information? Silence, so I would assume that's that. You've done a good job. Brilliant. Okay, thank you for that. Thank you both for that good information. Richard, can I hand over to you now, if that's okay?
Yeah, of course. Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for inviting me along. I shall now see if I can make the can everybody see that?
Yes. Yeah.
Is that working? Okay, yeah. There are quite a few slides. I'm going to skip through some of them pretty quickly because also my colleague Lee's going to go through, and I don't want to steal some of his thunder. And I'd rather go through the key bits that people would be interested in. I understand it's going to be available later. So yeah, we are the Football Foundation, so the sort of the largest sports charity. So bit of an overlay there of the kind of stuff that we will do. and in terms of the impact. So we had a review of our small grants process because it was pretty cumbersome before, and it wasn't really geared to helping the applicants and making it a good quality experience. So this was the kind of key themes that we were looking to get across when we launched it a couple of years ago. So in the past, whether you were applying for a small grant or a large grant, the application was pretty similar, and we needed to tone that down and make it more proportional for what people were looking to do. A similar feel across thing, clear guidance, quick decision making in terms of the small grants, and clear descriptions of what you could actually apply for. So this gives you an idea. So we work on a 3-year funding cycle. So for small grants, we've got a budget of 21 million over the 3 years. So obviously roughly that is 7 million a year. Very, very popular. And it looks like we're going to be quite a bit over budget. So there are conversations sort of happening on that at the moment. So it's not that we're not welcoming applications, we certainly are, but we're just having to be quite careful of what we look at and make sure it's all fitting the criteria. So this gives you an idea of what we're sort of looking. So goalposts sort of thing. So although we've only got that sort of 7 million a year, just as a rough rule of thumb, for every large scale application that will come through Lee and the team he works within, there will be 10 small grants that get delivered. So goalposts is our most popular scheme. And one of the things that we looked at from that, I suggest the application form for a goalpost is probably within 10 minutes to complete if you've got all of your information, and you should get a decision back in within a week. Some of the other capital items, depending on what there is, 2 weeks. And then sort of the slightly larger things where you tend to have more around security of tenure and needing technical input, we would hopefully, again, if everything is in place, to get you a decision within 4 weeks. So yeah, small grants. So this is a grant application up to 25,000, where we will cover 75% of the project costs. Now, you can come to us with projects that will be more than that. So I think it's roughly a £34,000 project would be a £25,000 grant at 75%. Now, if your project is more than that, you can still sort of come through, but it would be a ceiling of 25,000 as a rule. This is a list of the sort of organisations that are eligible. So football clubs, sports clubs, local authorities, PCTO is a Premier Club, community club organisation. So that's like the old football in the community schemes, CICs, registered charities. Now, this isn't available for clubs that play within the National League system. So this is perhaps better known for people working in football, where you've got clubs operating at steps 1 to 6. No retrospective funding, as we've sort of said before. And in view of what we've said in terms of the demand, we would normally only look for people to put 1 application in per season. So if you have a number of things that you want to apply for, you can include it within the 1 application. But what we're not keen to do is you have 1 application 1 month, 1 the next month, 1 the month after, because we can't meet all of demand. And we just want to make sure that everybody gets a fair opportunity to access the funding. So these are the items that we will cover in sort of things. So I've said goalposts are the most popular. Portable floodlights, so that enables people to use the grass pitches. Well, when I say it's grass training areas, so we won't fund people to train on grass pitches that are used for match play. This is sort of for training areas. Storage containers to put goalposts, all sort of stuff like that. Grass pitch maintenance machinery, drainage and new pitches. So this all comes under grass pitches. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here because Joe will cover some of this from Birmingham County FA as well. But basically, this is where you might need a new tractor or a new mower or a verti-drainer or a spiker, that you can get machinery to improve the quality of your pitches. So fencing, this is the ball stop fencing to stop balls going into neighbours sort of things, or perimeter So this is the site perimeter. So let's say that there was an issue of people walking across pitches or with sort of dogs, and it needed to be made more secure, then you could apply for that. So 3G is third generation. So this is the artificial pitches. So again, maintenance machinery, which is generally around sort of a tractor to brush the pitch, which improves the quality of it, and equipment. There are caveats though for coming through for that. Changing pavilions and clubhouses. This is another popular one that we get a lot around sort of improvements to the clubhouse, where the changing rooms or the boiler's not correct, or the windows need doing, or the roof's about to fall in, etc., etc. But it is quite minor, and obviously with a changing room project, it doesn't take much before projects start running over the £25,000 mark. And if it's a significant works, then that would probably go more into sort of Lee's area of expertise. And yeah, small-sided facility improvement. So this is like small-sided playing areas, where sort of, let's say there was an old Astro surface, it had become worn out and torn, and you were looking to sort of get that resurfaced. What we won't fund is facilities that aren't available for the community use. So i.e. if you had a school that was just looking for funding, but didn't open its doors to the community, that wouldn't be eligible. Kit and equipment, projects for private gain, as opposed to sort of wider charitable objectives, retrospective funding, facility hire. Now, conversion of containers to make sort of changing rooms. I appreciate that this can be a really cheap alternative to somebody that can't get a full clubhouse done. It's just not something that we consider at the moment. There is going to be sort of works around potentially opening out sort of where you could convert a container to a cafe sort of to increase your secondary spend. We're looking at a couple of pilots on that, so that might get launched, but buying a container and turning it into a changing room is not something that you could come to us for, I'm afraid. So pitch perimeter barriers, dugouts, again, this is sort of led to the level of competitive football that you play at, normally for regional feeder leagues and stuff like that, but yeah, you can't come through for that. And yeah, as I've sort of covered, the facilities intended for sort of National League step football and the women's top 4 tiers. So this is a sort of a bit of a guide of what you need in terms of the different areas of sort of things. So goalposts, no security of tenure. We just need one recommended provider, and then we effectively give you a certain amount that we consider should be sufficient to meet the cost of some standard goalposts. If people want sort of full bells and whistles, they can, but they then have to make up the difference. Portable floodlights, again, no security of tenure, 2 like-for-like quotes. And as I said, it shouldn't be on match play pitches. Containers, very, very popular. Generally, you don't need planning, but it's one of those is that you have to evidence to have checked that that isn't the case. Sometimes you do, or sometimes they'll say, as long as you paint it green or you cover it in wood, then that will be enough, or you've already got existing containers that will follow through. And again, there's some more criteria for the fencing. So grass pitch maintenance machinery, and the principle behind a lot of these others where you don't need security of tenure is if you have a site and you no longer have access to that site, the idea with a lot of this is you could effectively take it with you and move it to another facility that you sort of get. So pitch power, Joe will talk about sort of in a bit, but this effectively is where is an online element that goes through to the Grounds Maintenance Association, who will come out with a report with various recommendations on what you need to do to improve the pitch. Now, that could be some revenue support in terms of additional maintenance, or it could be capital items. 3G maintenance, we don't do a lot of these. This effectively is that sort of thing, but what we won't do is fund projects that we've already funded towards this, because that should have all been built into their business plan. And the small-sided facilities, sort of like that. So that is where you will need security of tenure on that, and that's sort of where it's starting. Lee will touch on the larger projects, so it's on, but for the small grants, it's only 5 years. But the key part of this is it needs to be uninterruptible, i.e. without a break clause. Then this would follow in through our technical team would look at this and some of the additional items that you would need there. And what we would ask that is that you do employ a specialist sports pitch artificial consultant to do all of the works, the sort of thing, because there can be a danger with this is if you just literally get a quote to do the surface and then you get on site and you discover that there's a problem with the base or the fencing and suddenly costs start to escalate. So that's why we insist to try and make sure we've got cost certainty to protect the applicant and ourselves. A bit more detail around the changing pavilion sort of works. So it really, as I said before, about minor works to help health and safety, a bit to improve your sustainability and reduce operating costs. So operating costs could be a more economical boiler or the installing of solar panels, something like that. The other thing that we're very keen to make sure is that anything is to help with sort of safeguarding improvements for participants and stuff like that. So you might find that removing a urinal but putting toilet cubicles would work, or individual showers rather than the traditional sort of big block showers where everybody has it at the same time. Yeah, in catering facilities, but what we won't cover is where it needs painting and decorating, minor roof works, etc., that should be covered under your general maintenance. Car park works, not really. There has to be a very strong case around health and safety or equality, diversity and inclusion, as in you've got a very active disabled people accessing the facility in wheelchairs but are finding it difficult because you don't have a smooth car park or there aren't the sort of ramps. That would be the situation sort of there. And then at the bottom I've got a link that will give you some help and guidance on general changing room design work and stuff that we will do. Sorry about this. So a bit more about the security of tenure. So again, it's 5 years. And it needs to be a lease that is in place, or you would need to have it as a joint applicant with the landowner or the freeholder. They need to provide in consent. Again, we need to have a clear understanding if planning is required or not. Often for internal works, you don't, but it always just needs to be checked up. 2 like-for-like quotes, condition survey, and then obviously evidence of your funding. So this is a little bit more about how the application process sort of works. You create a login and everything through our portal, and then you effectively, it's like a shopping cart. You just tick on what you sort of want to do, and then once you've ticked on the item that you're after, it walks you through how you then sort of do. And as I've said, even this, it's proportional depending on what you're after, what we would ask for. We need the 2 people to sort of complete. We will get those decisions that we've sort of said for you, hopefully pretty quickly. Once your grant has been, you've accepted it, we will then give you more information about how you submit your claim. Generally, what happens with the claims with this sort of thing is that what we look for is you put down your partnership funding contribution, i.e. the 25% is done as a deposit or a down payment. Once we've got evidence from the supplier that that has been done, we will then release the remaining 75% through to a club account. That's it. I'm aware that I've absolutely tried to fly through that. I don't know if there's any questions or whether you want Lee to do his section and then we can cover all the football ones at the same time.
I think if we go with Lee and do exactly what you said there, that'd be great. There are 4 questions that have come up in the chat, so if we can do it that way, that'd be brilliant. That's okay.
But unless you want to cover them off now, because they'll be relevant to the small grants.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. And they've gone. Where's the chat gone? There we go. Right. I've got from Kelly, I think I know who Kelly is. do parish councils class as local authority? Could they apply for this?
Yes, they are eligible to apply, and sometimes there has to be a clear, strong link to the football club that they are associated with. But pretty well for most of these items, parish councils are eligible. Joe will touch on a little bit later where they're not, but that is likely to change shortly.
Right, yeah, thank you. And I think it is, does it only have to be used for football, for instance, portable floodlights? Can it be used for other things as well?
If you had a facility that was a multi-sport sort of site, so you'd got a sports association that had football and rugby and stuff like that, yes, but there has to be a clear link where it is supporting a football club.
Brilliant, thank you. The last one I've got down here is from James Parker. James, it says, great stuff, but what if you don't have your own ground but pay 30,000 a year hiring the 3G pitch on a school facility? No canteen to become self-funding. James, did you want to elaborate on that?
As in, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yes. Now, we run over 20 teams. Unfortunately, this year we wasn't able to put in girls' teams, put in the disabled. We was going to work with Birmingham Deaf. We wasn't able to bring them over because of the lack of facility. We hire a 3G pitch, which is on a school facility, which obviously we pay a lot of money for the year for the teams. There's over 20 teams, but all we seem to do is lease, is rent. There's nowhere. I mean, really, I could do with my own facility for the club to get forward and to put more projects on, but all we seem to do is lease. And like I said, there's no canteen there. There's no storage. So if you imagine running 20 teams with the balls, with the equipment, and what I find is looking at the Football Foundation, everything's there, fantastic, if you own your own ground. But what about the clubs that don't own their own ground, that can't self-fund? And then you're charging parents. But it's like next year for us. I know I'm going to have to put the fees up for the parents because the referees' fees went up. September, the school facilities hit me and put it up 15% because of the electricity. So these I hadn't budgeted for in June. So this year it's took on a big knock-on effect. And I just feel the Football Foundation don't look after the clubs that haven't got a facility. And obviously we're in the Birmingham area, which is North Birmingham, which there's not a lot of facilities about.
Okay, thanks very much, sort of, James. A couple of bits and bobs, specifically with regard to school sites, and you being able to offer sort of catering and secondary spend. There's two things that have prevented you currently, is that we don't fund those little catering units. But as I've said, that is looking to change. We're going to run a pilot, and I would hope later this year that will be sort of different. The other issue that you have is that will still require security of tenure, and that is there when you have the arrangement with the individual schools, and it will be the same with the containers, really. Are they sort of happy? Now, there's two ways to go through. Is the school prepared to give you a lease on that sort of thing, which, to be honest, is often an issue. But the way that we would get around that.
Well, sorry, can I just interrupt on that? Obviously, the marvellous thing is to get the football 3G pitch at the school facility, they needed a partner, which our club was the partner to get that facility. Now, after 4 years, we became a hirer. That partner has been dropped. We became officially a hirer now. So it's of no benefit, and it was no benefit to the club. It benefits the school massively, but it doesn't benefit the club. So for what you're doing in grassroots and Football Foundation, it doesn't benefit the club as a club, and it should do, and not the school.
I'm more than happy to take this.
Rich, myself and James have spoken on this instance.
Okay.
So, James, I think it'd be useful if we took this one back offline again, and we really deal with this one in that isolated position, because there are different circumstances for different clubs and organisations, and we will work through them on an individual basis and try to find the most appropriate way to find a way to invest. And
no, listen, I just found this and I felt that this was a great way to get my point across.
Yeah,
and there's probably other people listening to this that are in the same position.
Absolutely, and there won't be one size fits all for these types of situations. So the framework is there for us to work to, and we need to find ways of working within that framework to meet the needs of that each individual club and organisation, which are in a very similar position to you. So you're not an isolated case, but by any means.
Nice. I'm only that I've been inquiring. I've been turned down a couple of times now by Football Foundation because I'm not a leaseholder.
Yeah, and as Rich has alluded to, the security of tenure is a really key element. We need to be mindful that we're investing other funders' money. So there is due diligence and there's an obligation on the foundation as a charity to make sure that the safeguards are in place to protect that investment. But as we've alluded to, there will be solutions, and we just need to make sure we work to those on each individual case.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to.
So the example would be with that is that if the school agreed to be a joint applicant, and then we can consider it. But you've obviously going to have the close links with the schools as well. So there's normally a way around that we can try and support wherever possible.
It'd be interesting to see them.
Yeah.
Thanks for that, James. Appreciate
Thank
that.
you.
I think again,
no, thanks very much. Thanks for your time. Yeah.
No problem at all. And obviously, I continue your conversations with the Football Foundation. And yeah, okay. Are there any other questions on the first presentation there? Okay, I'll hand over to Lee then, and go for the next one then. Thank you.
So, good evening, everybody. Hopefully, you can all see my screen.
Yeah.
Confirmation. So my name's Lee Ryder, and I'm the Senior Delivery Manager at the Foundation for the Midlands and the Southwest region. I'll detail how that is relevant for you in a few slides' time, but I'm actually stepping in for a colleague of mine, Keely Brown. She's off sunning herself in Spain for this week, so I stepped in and keep telling myself I'm the one in the best position tonight. So, introduction then. So I'm going to cover the over 25k grants, and I'm going to look at the Premier League Stadium Fund for any clubs that are in the STEP system. There's a few slides at the end for that. So the Football Foundation, who are we? We are the Premier League, the FA and the government's charity, as I alluded to earlier. They invest into us, and then we will invest the money into facilities in line with their priorities. So our goal is to unlock the power of pitches, to transform lives and strengthen communities, and ensure everybody has a great place to play, regardless of their background. We deliver outstanding grassroots sports facilities. We like to see more opportunities to play and better experiences for the participants. This supports physical and health well-being, but also the mental well-being. And we're really looking for that community cohesion and supporting the local economy as well. We're investing half our funding into the 40% most deprived and inactive communities in England. That's directly a Sport England request from the funding they're investing in us. And then we're targeting our investment where it's needed the most. By 2025, 40% of our investment will go into projects that support both football and at least one additional sport. And that could be rugby, cricket, and some of the basketball and netball sports. So our vision is Together for Football, and I mentioned already, we deliver facilities that look to unlock the power of pitches, transform lives, and strengthen communities. So the Midlands and Southwest region is on the screen. So I cover the Devon and Cornwall area, which is down to the bottom left, Southwest. Brendan Dix covers the Somerset area. Keely Brown, she covers your area, so the Birmingham, Herefordshire, Staffordshire and Worcestershire area. And then Andrew Wadsworth covers the East Mids area. A couple of other colleagues in the region. Chris Whitaker is a delivery officer and is very supportive of the work that all of the delivery managers deliver. And we have a facilities planning manager, Martin Collier, who starts with us tomorrow. So his role will be looking at the planning side of it and working with local football facility plans, which I will update you on shortly. Since 2000, Foundation has awarded more than 23,000 grants to improve facilities, and that's just under 900 million pounds worth of funding. That's got into over 1,000 artificial grass pitches, 11,000 natural grass pitches. That's either improved drainage or more recently improvement into help the maintenance of those pitches. And we've invested in over 1,300 changing facilities or pavilions, which is particularly useful in terms of sustainability and that multi-sport element in terms of getting people active, whether it's Zumba or Pilates. Those types of activities are really important for us to deliver and really become a central hub for the community. The additional funding that we've attracted in the way of partnership funding is over 1.2 billion. So that gives us a 2 billion investment into grassroots football so far. And the current levels of investment from the government are the highest they've been. So we are really looking to make some transformational changes over the coming years. So the impact, our promise is to deliver outstanding grassroots sports facilities, looking to transform lives and communities where it's needed the most. And we want to ensure that everybody has a place to play more regularly, regardless of their background. For football, we're looking at more quality pitches. That's both artificial and grass. As long as I've been involved with football, which has been over 10 years, the number one priority that comes back from questionnaires is improvements to grass pitches. So the foundation and our funding partners are investing more money into that area than we ever have before. And we are seeing some really encouraging results in terms of pitches, improving their quality and improving their capacity. So more people playing more matches, fewer matches cancelled. That's directly linked to the investment into grass pitch maintenance. And then we want to provide a better playing experience from the young players all the way through to your walking football age group, which is looking at 60 plus. And then in the harder to reach areas, more urban, we're looking at investing in a broader range of pitches. And we've got a new program coming online called Play Zones, which is going to deliver small-sided facilities in the heart of communities where they're needed the most. On the society side, this is very much linked to the Sport England move agenda, trying to get people's physical well-being improved. That has a knock-on effect to improve the mental well-being. We're looking at individual development, social and community development, and then that economic development. So our investment, we've created 318 local football facility plans, LFFPs for short, that show the current football facilities and then identify where our future investment priorities lie. This really is our blueprint for investment. I can provide the link that can be sent around and you can look at the local football plan in your area. So we're now working with local partners, county FAs, community leaders, local authorities, clubs to really turn these plans into reality. In the same time, we're also updating them to make sure that they are current and in line with current needs and priorities. Sports funds in the over 25k pot, we're looking at 3G pitches. We're looking at hub sites, lots of debates around what a hub site is. In terms of attracting some of the larger investment, we're looking at least 2 3G pitches with associated facilities. We're looking at changing rooms and pavilions, and that really helps drive that social change, as I mentioned earlier. The play zones, and then we're looking at the grass pitches, that improved quality, improved drainage. So we're looking to provide high quality, sustainable sites that really serve our communities. And the funding partners have set us a framework that we need to deliver against. So this is our priority for the next 2 years. We've already had a year worth of delivery. So we're looking at delivering quality pitches, both 3G and grass, as I mentioned, and that's going to account for 75% of our investment over the next 2 years. We're looking to tackle inequalities with underrepresented groups. Really want to provide equal access to girls, which is great coming off the back of the Euros. We've got a great legacy there to really build on for future generations. We're looking to provide opportunities for people with disabilities and provide opportunities for low socioeconomic groups. We're looking at tackling the inequalities on a regional basis. So we've got our key areas to invest in, but we are going to invest in every area. We just need to find the right project with the right outcomes. And we're looking at the added value through the multi-sport element. And we're really getting an understanding of this. So it's a shared space for football that another sport will use. And then we're looking at community and club investment as a key area for us to support moving forward. So how does this fit in? So the end-to-end process, we have a six-stage process. I really want to focus on the first two stages here tonight because that is directly relevant. The first port of call will be to speak to Joe or the County FA in terms of what is a priority locally. And then as the foundation, we'll be introduced at the relevant time. That'll be the likes of myself as a delivery manager. And we've got a technical project manager who will also come in to help with those technical elements, both in terms of the layouts, the build, but also from a legal perspective. So the first one is the planning. And this links back to the local football facility plans. And it's really a plan that shows us what the strategic priority is in a certain area and delivering against our KPIs. So we'll use a local playing pitch strategy, which is a supply and demand document, which is Sport England endorsed to really help highlight where the priorities are. And that will inform our local football facility plan, which is our blueprint for investment. County FAs are involved with this process at every step. So that is really the first port of call to get involved with. If we've got a project that is within the area to deliver, we'll then look to engage with partners on a local level to determine how viable it is. We'll look at the partnership funding side of it. We'll look at the roles and responsibilities of the group that are going to work with that project, including how it will then operate in a sustainable manner moving forward. And then the most critical element is the community engagement. This really helps shape and define what the project will deliver and will then help to define what we actually do deliver. So do we need additional rooms within a pavilion to help with any local health and well-being options? Do we need it to help with social prescribing? We'll only get that from that community engagement, which is at the heart of what we do. We have a new engagement, a new toolkit, which will be an online version. It's just going through the latter stages of testing, and then that will be available for you to utilise. Some initial questions that the County FA and the foundation will ask. So who owns the site? It comes back to the conversation we had with James. Does the applying body have a lease or permission, or can there be a joint application? And the joint applications are really strong because it really provides that partnership approach to delivering. We need to check that you've got the relevant, either a freehold or have you got the relevant leasehold of a site. So our terms and conditions for a grant of over £100,000, 21 years. For the £25,000 to just under 100 is 10 years. We'll then be looking at the structure of the applying organisation. Can they reclaim VAT? Who is going to be the project lead? What is the team around them to support that? What is the professional advice that they get? And then how does it deliver against the performance framework that we have as the foundation? And are we really looking at all the opportunities that this facility can deliver? And then a really important question is what match funding can be found locally. This determines what the grant request will be from us. And that is not really a question we can answer here tonight because it's really based on the outcomes that a project will deliver. So that's it. Initial high level on the larger funds that we offer. Just a couple of slides from the Premier League Stadium Fund for any clubs that are in the National League system. The Premier League Stadium Fund will target investment in main areas of the game. So that's clubs in the National League system, steps 1 to 6, and then clubs in the women's football pyramid, tier 1 to 4. There's a lot of profile around the women's game. You may see it on Sky Sports. So we are matching the investment into the female game as we are with the male game. And in some instances, both the male and the female teams will play on the same site. So whichever team plays at the highest level, that would be the max amount that is applicable. So what's the Premier League Stadium Fund invest in? It's investing in facilities that are required for clubs to meet the ground grading for the league they're playing in, set by the FA. And that could be down to supporter facilities. So the stands, it could be hard standing around the pitch, could be improvements to the pavilion in terms of hospitality. Do we need an increased social area to aid that sustainability? On the player side, are the change rooms appropriate? Do they meet the criteria? If not, we can then invest into that side of it. Floodlighting. There's a new fund coming out, which is going to look at changing the existing metal halide floodlight system we've got across the country to new energy efficient LED floodlights. And then we're looking at improving the grass pitch quality. Again, both from a grass perspective, but also moving forward, we're now looking at Stadia 3G pitches, which even further help with the sustainability for football clubs in the National League system. So as you can see, there is a wide range of support available, and the most important bit from that is please talk, please make contact with the County FA, and then discuss that with ourselves. And as a collective, we can then make sure we're highlighting the right projects in the right areas, and then we give the appropriate support to develop and progress those applications through to completion. And that's it from me. Are there any questions?
It looks like where are we? James, Caroline and Joe are going to pick up with you on your questions, so that'll be great. So please get in touch there. And likewise, I think Jennifer and Joe, you've been emailing. So again, it looks like you've been catching up on that anyway as well, which is good. I do have one other person who's interested in talking about leases, but if we can possibly do that one offline as well at the end, if that's okay with yourself, Lee and Richard, is that okay? Rather than elongate it a bit more now, is that okay?
Yep, sorry.
Brilliant. Oh, brilliant. Okay, well, last but not least, then it's Joe Robinson from Birmingham County Football. Then. Where have you gone?
I'm here. Can everybody see that screen?
Yes.
Fab. Right. Let me just pop into full screen. Okay, guys. So yeah, my name's Joe Robinson, Facility and Investment Lead for Birmingham County FA. I'm just going to obviously I'm just conscious of people's time now, so I'm going to whiz through this, and if anybody does want to follow up by an email direct, then feel free. Richard touched upon the grass pitches, and basically, if you're looking to get funding for your grass pitches to improve the maintenance and renovation works on them, then Pitch Power is your first port of call. It is a web-based app, which essentially you'll go out onto your pitches, you'll do some soil samples, you'll take a few photos, and do a little bit of administration work in terms of what machinery you've got, how many games are played, how many were cancelled, that sort of thing. And then that is all sent to the GMA, who will produce a report for you. And it basically gives you loads of advice and guidance. And it's your key basically to access funds for grass pitches. It might be of interest to some of you on the call. The RFU and the ECB are going to be or have been incorporated in this now, so it will also be sort of a multi-sport approach. So if you've got multi-sports on site, such as cricket and rugby in conjunction with football, then these pitches will also be able to be assessed as well. What does a report look like? This is just sort of an example taken from our headquarters. Just some key things from here. So you've got the quality of the pitches, which will be important. I'll go into that in a minute. And then it goes through the maintenance recommendations, equipment recommendations, and then the final thing that's really sort of key is the inspection ID, because that's what is going to be linked to all your funding opportunities. One of the funding opportunities are grass pitch maintenance funds. I appreciate there's a lot of information on this slide, so I'll keep on for a sec. But essentially, it's a 6-year tapered grant, which you'll be able to get funding through the Football Foundation to cover, to act as a contribution towards some of those increased maintenance and renovation works that have been suggested within your pitch power report to improve the quality of your grass pitches. If I just quickly move on to the next slide. So where your pitches were rated poor or good does have an impact on the amount of funding that you'll be able to access. So you'll see there, if you've got an 11v11 pitch that is poor in years 1, you can get up to £3,200 for that pitch. If that pitch was deemed to be good, then you would, you'd only get 960, which again, it's still worthwhile, going forward, even if you've got some good pitches available. How that also links into the small grant scheme that Richard touched upon earlier. If in that pitch power report is recommended that you could do with, obviously this example here, a combination turf grooming toolkit, then you can apply to the small grant scheme. So again, like my maths is terrible, so I work off 20,000. So if the equipment was 20,000, the club or the site would need to find 5, and the Football Foundation would obviously fund the extra 15, providing you meet all the eligible criteria for that. Just one thing to note as well is that it can also be used if the report highlights there's some extensive draining works that needs to be done on site. But again, your pitch power report is almost like gospel on that. So it needs to be in that report to be able to access funding off the back of it. So more specifically to Birmingham County FA, we understand that some of these clubs that are struggling to find that initial 25%, it almost sort of is a barrier to unlocking that extra 75 through the Football Foundation. So we have a pot of funding which we've labelled the Grass Pitch Grant, where clubs can come to us and apply for up to £5,000 towards a project that is there to enhance their grass pitches. We just need a copy of their football and their pitch power report and their football development plan, and then we will assess in terms of what level of funding we feel is applicable to that specific project, and that'll all be done on a case-by-case basis. In terms of supporting with the actual pitch power reports, we do have support pitch advisors available, and we have workforce across all areas of the county. Obviously, specific to this call, you're looking at more rugby, Coventry, and Warwickshire, but they can come out and they can support you with your pitch power submission. They can go into a little bit more detail in terms of what things mean to make it a bit more clearer for you. And they'll be able to link you in and feedback to the regional pitch advisor at the GMA. So at present, we do have a bit of funding to cover the cost of a support pitch advisor helping you with that initial pitch power report, but that's obviously a limited pot of funding. It will run out at some point. And if you wanted to continue using support pitch advisors, there will be there is a cost for their service, but you might feel that it values paying that cost for the time it might take to do, especially if you've got a 6+ pitch site. It could take a while to get a pitch power report done. So that, just so you know, that there is that service on hand as well if you need it. So that's sort of grass pitches whistle stop tour. Just moving on to sustainability funding. So again, appreciate the amount of information and blurb on these slides. But we're doing a lot around the sustainability element in sport and football particularly. We have a Green Innovation Fund, which it opens in September. I think it's actually closed at the moment, but clubs could have applied for £750 worth to projects that were sort of for environmental sustainability. We tend to have a lot of these coming through sort of like purchasing, lots of reusable water bottles and stuff. And it's been really successful. I think Richard, my colleague who manages this fund, I think he said they've paid, I think something like £40,000 out of this to date over the years it's been out. So really sort of people are really tapping into this. There's a renewable energy tariff that's there to help support clubs, looking at competitive rates and whatnot on that. Again, this one isn't really my bag, and if you need some more information on that bit, the email is at the bottom there around Save Today, Play Tomorrow at birminghamfa.com. So if you want more information on that particular one, you can go to that. Battery storage. So this is sort of a very bespoke kind of funding opportunity. So if clubs are within 50 metres of a substation and landowners will have long-term lease of 30 more years, then they could potentially get £1,000 for 30 years funding to have a storage on their site, or £10,000 up front. And we've currently got 17 clubs going through that process. So again, if you want to check your eligibility for that, then you can go to Save Today, Play Tomorrow at Birmingham FA. And then finally, we've just developed or co-developed a carbon literacy education course with Manchester Met University around how clubs can sort of reduce their carbon footprint and stuff like that. So that's sort of the sustainability element of what the County FA are sort of working towards at the moment. And Richard, who's sort of fronting that up at the moment, he's doing a great job. And then final slide for me, in terms of football development opportunities. So this is about growing the game, helping clubs with coaching courses, that sort of thing. So at the moment, we have a target to get all our teams a qualified coach. And at the moment, we have a £60 discount, which is limited to one coach per team. So if that team currently doesn't have a level 1 coach attached to it, then they can access some funding to support with that particular coach. Some of these you may or may not have heard of. So we currently have Wildcats, and now has been introduced this season as a Squad Girls recreational offer for females. And they can access some funding if they was to host or look to be a host for one of these centres. Now, I think technically the application window for these are closed at the moment, but Vicky, who's our female FDO, she is happy to take calls and speak to people outside of the application window so that you're ready for when it is open. So if you are interested, please get in touch. Again, the email's there. It will be directed to Vicky on that. Similar kind of thing for disability recreation centres, aimed at sort of growing the disability game. So if clubs want to sort of start a disability recreation centre, they can get in touch. Harley is the FDO who's heading that up for us at the moment. And then Just Play Centre is for sort of, again, recreational activities for those 16 plus, and there's pots of funding out there to help support with that. All these programs go onto what is our event platform, or it's now called Fine Football. So if you were set up, let's take I've been chatting about Leamington in the chat. If you was in the Leamington Spa area and you hosted one of these, people would go and search on the Fine Football, I'm looking for a disability rec centre within that mile radius, and you would come up and people can contact you and get involved. So it's a really good way, a recruitment tool for you clubs to help grow whatever section you're looking at, whether that's women and girls or disability. And that is me, I believe. So I'll stop sharing.
Brill, thank you, Joe. That's excellent. And we have slightly run over, but if there are any other pertinent questions, if you're happy to come forward, if anybody else want to ask a question?
I do have one question, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Providing the plumber doesn't cut another piece out the ceiling, it'll be quiet while I answer it. Being quite new to this process, I represent a sports and social club that are on a journey at the moment, changing from a sports and social club more into a community hub. But we're very lucky to have some great sports facilities. We've got a nice football pitch, which has just started being used again for the first time in 2.5 years. But it's been very interesting listening tonight, and I saw Caroline's message in the chat, and I would definitely like to have a conversation with her at some point about how we progress this journey. But listening to what Lee was saying as well, it would be really handy if there was a point of contact for someone like myself to be able to sit down and go through the process, because I'm being told things by lots of different people at the same time as to what we need as a minimum, where we need to be, what we need on leases. I've been told twice now about 2 different types of leases that we need to look at, because what our ultimate aim is to put a 3G pitch somewhere in an area that would benefit from it, because it just genuinely doesn't have any facilities in the north of Nuneaton. And it would be nice to have some partners on that journey, because we're currently having negotiations with a landlord about a new lease who wants me to put a business case to him. And if I'd got someone to go to with the information and the help to go along that process, I'm fairly certain I can engage the landlord in what would be a project to benefit the whole of the community.
Okay.
Thanks, Richard. Yeah, so as I mentioned, then the first port of call would be Caroline and Joe at the County FA, and then my colleague Keely, who covers your area, she would then be the one that would get involved from our side of it. But I think a conversation with Caroline and Joe in the first instance would really be beneficial to yourself.
Yeah,
and they're on the same page as we are.
Yeah. We are working with one of our local junior and ladies and girls football sections to try and develop the facility.
Yeah.
The aim of making something for them to use as like a training hub, but it's then taking it out into the wider community and having those contacts with the other clubs in the area, so that we build a facility that suits everybody if we can get it across the line. Minimum we can get is at least another 3 grass 9-a-side pitches on the facility quite easily.
Okay, yeah, and it will come down to that strategic need. What does the local evidence, the playing pitch strategy, what are they all saying in terms of what that need is? And then that local community engagement will really then start to tease out the other elements, multi-sport, any other activities that the local community needs. And then that will help really shape and inform what you'll put together. And all the technical, the legal position, that could be discussed in parallel, but you really want to determine what is the local need and what's going to be the most sustainable facility mix that you can provide.
Yeah. So
Richard,
yes.
Sorry, I was just going to say, if you drop me and Joe an email, we've put our emails in the chat, then we'll arrange a time. We can either have a virtual call or we'll pop out and see you at your site.
Yeah, it's a cigarette packet project at the minute, which I've been involved in for about 4 weeks, and Michelle's been helping us. She's coming up next Monday to have a look at what we can do up there. But I've had a meeting today with a landlord who came with an attitude to start off with that he wasn't that engaged, and has gone away with thinking that there's a real use here for a site on the long term.
Okay.
And
well, we're doing a lot of work with the local authority as well in the Nuneaton and Bedworth area, so we can put their position as well.
The club's in a bit of an awkward position because it sits in what is North Warwickshire, but it borders Camp Hill, which is Nuneaton and Bedworth, and it's mainly you. So in through my position as a councillor, I've got both councils engaged in what we're doing, and I've had a conversation this afternoon with the play pitch strategy people who are doing North Warwickshire's play pitch, which I was expecting a landlord to tell me not to engage in today, but he didn't, which is why I know that they're slowly coming around to our way of thinking, because I understand we'd have to put the pitches into the play pitch strategy to even get looked at for 3G.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. should we end it there then, if that's okay? I mean, if that's great. If you go through to the contacts that have been given, that would be great. I know, Martin, you wanted to have a quick word with Richard and Lee. If you wanted to stay on, and Richard and Lee, is that okay? It was a bit about leases. Is that okay?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if everybody else is happy, brilliant. Thank you all. There's a lot of information there, a lot of good information, I think. Hopefully you can utilize it. You've seen in the chat that there are contacts in there. Please, by all means, utilize them. As Michelle said earlier on, we will be sending all this information out to you, so you will get this webinar again. So for all this on there, and thank you all very much for turning up. Thank you, presenters, and yeah, Martin and Lee and Richard, if you want to have a quick chat. Everybody else, thank you very much indeed.